Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's etaprime back here again. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the all-new Microsoft Surface Pro, and I think this is exactly why Qualcomm created the new Snapdragon X and the X Elite ARM CPUs. I think it's perfect for a Windows-powered tablet, and I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these Surface Pros for quite some time, but I never really wanted to fork out the cash. But luckily, Micro Center was kind enough to send this over for review. I will leave a link to their website in the description. You can pick up anything tech-related over there. But getting back to the Surface Pro, this is powered by the Snapdragon X Plus. It's the non-X Elite version. We've got 10 CPU cores here, up to 3.4 gigahertz. And don't forget, this does have Copilot built in. That's one of the main claim to fames with their new AI features built into Windows. Microsoft is really pushing that Copilot on these units here. Comes in handy for a lot of use case scenarios, but one of my favorite things here is the display. Keep in mind, they are offering two different displays for the new Surface Pro. You can get an OLED or you can get an LCD, which I have here. It's Microsoft's new 13-inch Pixel Sense. And to tell you the truth, I actually thought this was an OLED when I unboxed it and turned it on for the first time. It's a really good looking LCD. Great kickstand built into these Surface Pro devices, so you can stand this up. I was actually under the impression that this did come with a keyboard, but that's kind of an accessory that they sell separately. So if you did opt just to get the base, you're not going to get the keyboard. Inside of the box, what you're going to get here is the Surface Pro and a 39-watt charger, which is odd wattage, but we don't need much here for this ARM CPU. Taking a look at the I/O over here on this side, we've got our charger port, which is a proprietary Microsoft charger port. That 39-watt charger goes right here, but you can charge this over USB Type-C, and we've actually got two USB 4 ports over here on the left-hand side. On the very top, we've got our volume rocker and power button, and moving around to the bottom, we've got the Microsoft Surface keyboard port down here. And when it comes to the overall specs, we've got the Qualcomm Snapdragon X Plus X1P 64100. 10 cores up to 3.4 gigahertz. The GPU is the Adreno X1 up to 1200 megahertz. 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X at 8448 megahertz. 512 gigabyte user replaceable M.2 SSD. It's actually easily accessible from the rear. A 120 Hz 13-inch Pixel Sense LCD display with a resolution of 2880 by 1920. It's got an aspect ratio of 3 by 2, and I know a lot of Surface users just love this aspect ratio. Definitely grown to like it on this unit here. Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, 48 watt-hour battery, and since this is a Microsoft product, we've got Windows 11 installed out of the box. Even though this Surface Pro is powered by an ARM CPU, it's not a watered down version of Windows. This is true Windows 11. It's actually using Microsoft's new translation layer known as Prism, and everything that works over on x86, for the most part, will work over here. There are a few exceptions, and it's really few and far in between, but a lot of the apps that weren't working before for me actually have been updated. Hardware Info is one of them. It was recently updated, so now it does work here. But a lot of developers are kind of just implementing some ARM64 stuff into their applications, so it will work on PCs powered by ARM. But other than that, we've got a full-fledged Windows PC here, and this Snapdragon X is actually really quick. Web browsing, email checking, document editing, anything you do on your regular laptop or desktop PC can be done here, no problem at all. But one of the big things that Microsoft has really been talking about with these ARM chips is Copilot. This will also work on x86, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. So personally, I've used it a few times for a couple different research projects. But for instance, I've got Copilot going right here. Give me some ideas for a fun downtown event in a small town right outside of Memphis. So my wife does a lot of the downtown planning where I am. So it's going to give us a list of ideas that we could kind of go with. And obviously, most of this stuff would be something that has already been done or people may think of when you talk about a downtown event. But having a list laid out for you is really awesome. And along with scanning through documents, summarizing them, and helping you with your math homework, we can also generate images of hamsters in armor fighting dragons. Oh, yeah, there we go. Personally, I think this is the exact reason Copilot exists. Cute little hamster fighting a mini dragon, looks like they're in a library. But seriously, there are a lot of real world use case scenarios where Copilot would come in handy for a lot of people out there. When it comes to web browsing and video streaming, this thing is really fast. Remember, we've got Wi-Fi 7 built in here with the Surface Pro, and we can head right over to their website. Everything's going to load up super quickly here. Very image heavy website. Let's see, I think there's like a little demo right up here, right here. This ARM CPU definitely does an amazing job for things that most people are going to do on their PC every single day, including video streaming from, let's say, YouTube. We're going to pause that. Full screen. I know we don't have a 4K display, but I'm still going to take it up to 4K. Stats for nerds. 4K, 60 FPS, HDR, zero drop frames up in the corner there, and with these Snapdragon chips, video playback hasn't been an issue, which does come in a bit more powerful than the Snapdragon X Plus that we have here, but it kind of transfers across the board. You want to do some video streaming or native playback, this chip's going to handle it. Next thing I wanted to take a look at were a few benchmarks I ran on the Surface Pro. Geekbench 6, single core, 2,435, multi, over 13,000. And just to put this into perspective for you, 14-inch MacBook Pro with that Apple M3, single core, 3,135, multi, 14. And the Intel 155H, which is an x86 CPU, is coming in with a lower single and a lower multi score when you compare it to the Snapdragon X Plus. I also wanted to see what this Adreno GPU could do. 3D Mark Night Raid, 25,339, and I also ran Firestrike, looking at 5,773. And when it comes down to it, Microsoft does not advertise the Surface Pro as a gaming tablet, but I still want to see if we can run some games on it. As we know, the Surface Pro has an aspect ratio of 3:2. I've just set these games to 1080p, so we've got a 16:9 with the game itself. First up, we've got Cyberpunk 2077, and up in the top left-hand corner, I've got the built-in frame counter, because RTSS actually breaks games with this chip right now. I've tried Afterburner, tried a few others. The only way to not disturb everything is to use that built-in Windows FPS counter right now. And with this game, I'm at 1080p, all those settings, FSR is set to ultra performance. So it's way under 1080p with that scaling going on. But as you can see, I mean, we're over 30 FPS. We're seeing an average of around 38 FPS, and it's definitely not perfect here. We did have to take that scaling way down. We're at low settings, but to see Cyberpunk 2077 running like this on an ARM chip is pretty impressive if you ask me. Because after all, we do have to go through that Prism emulation layer to go from x86 over to the ARM chip we have here. Here's an easier one to run, Hades 2, 1080p, high settings. I was really hoping we could run this at a continuous 120 given that we've got a 120Hz display here. Now I'm not complaining because we are over 60 and at 900p, yeah, you definitely can run this at a continuous 120 FPS. But with these easier to run indie games, this ARM chip is going to work out great. Fallout 4, 720p, low settings. I figured at these settings we'd be able to run this at 60 FPS, but as you can see, I mean, it's well under. And I'll tell you what, Bethesda recently updated this game. Some people have been noticing less performance than they got with the older version, so if you want to see the older version running from GOG, let me know in the comments below. I wouldn't mind making another gaming video on this thing. But the last one we have here is Grand Theft Auto 5. 1080, normal settings, looking pretty decent here. Got a few stutters every once in a while, and I kind of figured that would be the case. Really feels like shaders are loading, and with this, it doesn't have shader cache, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on in the background with that Adreno GPU, so it definitely could be that. The last thing I wanted to talk about here was battery life, and through my testing, I was in performance mode from Windows, 50% screen brightness, and when it comes to streaming video from YouTube, I got 12 hours and 8 minutes out of this thing. Of course, gaming is going to burn a lot more power. It has to hit up that CPU and GPU a lot harder than video playback. But again, Microsoft does not, advertise this as a gaming machine, and 12 hours video playback like it sits, not bad at all. Overall, I really do love the design of the Surface. Glad we've got that built-in kickstand, and I've taken a look at a lot of tablets, but when it comes down to it, having that ARM CPU in here with Windows is definitely the way to go if you're not looking for an Android device. And I think Qualcomm and Microsoft really hit the mark with the Snapdragon X in a machine like this. Now, I do want to thank Micro Center for sending this over for review. If there's anything else you want to see running on the Surface Pro, just let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning a little more, I'll leave some links to Micro Center's website down below. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.